Hey guys, it's Boss Gaming 101 here again, and today I'm going to talk about uh, WWE superstars, especially how you can make some good ones. Because to be honest with you, there's so many boring and generic wrestlers on the roster today that it truly makes Roman Reigns look like a decent superstar in comparison. I'm not saying that every wrestler is just simply bad. Like, there are definitely a lot of talented wrestlers on the roster. In fact, I'm willing to believe that WWE has the most stacked and most talented roster in the world today. But the characters are so boring and generic that I must truly wonder how we got from Rock and Austin and Taker and Kane to guys like Roman Reigns, Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins. Like, if you showed me if I showed somebody a clip of a promo from any of the guys that I just mentioned that are on the roster today, I don't think I can tell you what their personality is supposed to be. That's how boring and generic these guys are. Some of them are just so much like a baby face that you really can't tell them apart. And WWE's booking has just ruined them completely as good characters that I must truly wonder why they're even on the roster today. Finn Balor, to be honest, has ruined the demon gimmick. What Kane has made truly special, Finn Balor just done away with all that. By first of all, making him a face, which I don't think the guy whose gimmick is supposed to be the Demon King should ever be a face. And number two, he doesn't look like a demon like at all. At least Attitude Era Kane had the presence of a monster, not an actual demon. Because to be honest with you, that attire looks kind of good, but just not really too convincing to me. But like I said before, with Finn Balor, it looks so stupid. And his entrance looks so retarded that it makes me wonder why they went with a demon gimmick and not something like Eugene. Because when I take a look at Finn Balor, I don't think of him as like a demon. I think of him as like a retarded person. And again, like, over half the roster is just so boring that I can't truly think of how people actually like some of these guys. At least most of the roster is talented, but again, it's just their character is so bad. And to be honest with you, what makes a WWE superstar good is not just being talented, but also having a good character as well. That's why I would like to see people like Baron Corbin and Rusev and Nakamura to be good characters. Is to be good WWE superstars. Because they are kind of talented, but they're just buried as WWE superstars. There's also a reason why I just really want Roman and Finn to just change their gimmicks completely, just so that they can be more interesting. Like, there was Money in the Bank last night. I kind of heard some polarizing comments. Like, there was a few people who said that it was the most botchiest, one of the most botchiest, if botchiest is the word, but it's definitely a pretty botchy pay-per-view, which I heard the same about Mania, but that one at least makes sense, considering Mania was like 7.5 hours. But like, it was also, I heard other people say that it was definitely a good pay-per-view until we get to the main event. which was Brock Lesnar wins Money in the Bank, which I believe is so stupid that I can't even wrap my mind about why they even gave Lesnar the Money in the Bank briefcase to begin with. I don't feel like Lesnar really needs it. All they have to do is just put him in a title match and he can just win the title right away. There is no good reason why Lesnar needs the Money in the Bank contract. In that match, I can think of at least a couple people who could have won, but Lesnar definitely does not need the briefcase. Because again, he can just simply bury people like he and Roman always do. Like, I just don't get why WWE's booking is just this bad. Remember when they had the wild card rule? That just made the entire brand split look like it's so unnecessary. Whoops. But yeah, the wild card rule just really makes the brand split look unnecessary. And I kind of don't really get why they would ever do that in the first place. Like, do they honestly just think that, hey, why don't we have 3 guys from Raw and 3 guys from SmackDown go cross brand? Like, I can't wrap my mind around why they would do that in the first place. Because, like, again, guys like Finn Balor and Roman are still boring no matter what roster they're on. Like, I don't even think SmackDown or even NXT's booking can make Roman and Finn look interesting. Because I feel like they both had their characters ruined to the point where I really just want them to go away. Almost as bad as I want Lesnar to leave. But at least with Finn and Roman, they are more talented than Brock. I'll admit that Brock kind of has a good thing going, but the only good quality that he has is that he's the Beast Incarnate. Otherwise, there's nothing really interesting about him. All he has is like 3 moves in his moveset that he uses so much that I really don't really get why there are still people who like him. Not to mention that when he had the title, and even when he didn't have the title, he appears not very often, to the point where I really have to wonder why WWE put the title on him in the first place. And to all the people who say that he's a big draw, tell me, what about him is he such a big draw? Because I don't get it. He's such a boring superstar. Like, his wrestling is just simply awful, and he needs Paul Heyman to cut his promos to a point where I just simply don't want to watch him, like, ever. I would rather watch Roman Reigns cut some of the crappiest promos I have ever seen than watch a Brock Lesnar match end in, like, seconds. Oh yeah, and last night there was also Roman and Elias, which ended in like 5 seconds, so that was fun. Thank God I don't have the WWE Network subscription. I'm so glad that WWE has some of the most awful booking. I'm so glad that WWE just doesn't know how to book anybody. And before you start calling me an AEW fanboy, I'll be happy to let you know that on the contrary, I think AEW is being a little bit overhyped, but that's not to say that I believe AEW is going to be awful. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be good or bad. So for now, I'm just going to stay unbiased and say that I'm hoping that it'll be good. Either that or end up just like Impact. And WWE's booking is so bad that it's no wonder that people like Goldust and Luke Harper were trying to leave. The booking is so bad that I can't blame people for arguing on the internet on how bad WWE's booking is. And there's like a few people on the internet that I've seen that are basically impersonating Vince to the point where it's actually kind of funny. One person in mind is Christian Miracle, the guy who I've seen on a few of his WWE Sin videos where he's basically representing the mind of Vince himself. Like how he was mocking the fans for being contradictory, which I'll admit that there's some out there, but the way that like him and Sami Zayn were acting like as if the entire WWE universe is a little bit polarizing, which I think is so far from the truth, it's actually kind of funny. Like, I feel like when you're talking about anything about AEW, I feel like their fan base for WWE would be just as rapid as Marvel's fan base. Like, if you say anything bad about WWE and praise AEW, people are going to get after you so quick. It's like watching Marvel fanboys getting after people if they talk anything bad about any of the Marvel movies. I know it's not really relevant to the topic at hand, but I just kind of find it funny how similar the fan bases are. That is not to say that I simply don't like the fan bases, because there are definitely some things about the fan bases I like how I like to see how other people react to certain situations and see how much their opinions that actually are similar to mine and how much I agree with certain people. Although people like the whole effing show, I kind of don't like at times just because they're edgy just to be edgy. But still, there are definitely some things that on their channel that I definitely agree with. But it doesn't help the fact that there are still people out there who just simply don't understand. Who don't understand how bad WWE's booking is and how boring each superstar is, to the point where it's simply mind-blowing on how people just don't understand how bad each character on the roster is. I never really watched a single episode of NXT, but I keep hearing how much praise NXT is getting, to the point where I actually have to wonder how good it actually is. Like, I'll admit that there is a ton of superstars that were in NXT that just been ruined on the main roster. Like, for example, Sami Zayn as a heel is pretty decent, but I just don't really get why they went that direction with Sami. I can think of a different direction they could have took with Sami, but it's just Same thing with Roman. Like, when he was part of the Shield, it was actually kind of interesting considering the Shield was actually a dominant team and many people liked it. But as soon as they went with their different directions, Roman's booking has been so boring and so infuriating, actually, that I'm just simply baffled in how WWE can be so incompetent with their writing. I must truly wonder how there are still fans of WWE, because I've seen so many bad bookings that the bad simply outweighs the good. Like at WrestleMania, there was only 2 matches this year that I was actually looking forward to, which was AJ and Orton and Batista and Triple H. Every other match was just simply bad, whether it was just the bad match that I bet it was going to have overall, or the booking that was so overrated and so garbage that I just simply didn't want to watch it. Like, I'll come out and say that Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan's rivalry is so overhyped and so overbooked that it was just simply garbage. Like, there was a promo on SmackDown that was kind of good, but it wasn't enough to save the storyline. Kofi and the New Day had so many handicap matches, and they overcame the odds. It makes me wonder how people weren't being called out for being a hypocrite. When Cena and Roman Reigns have done the exact same things, and people get mad at them, but with Kofi, it's somehow good. And that's not to mention the amount of people who say that Vince is racist just simply because that Kofi Kingston was the underdog in the entire storyline. It's actually kind of funny when you think about how quick they are to jump the gun. Like, it's actually kind of funny how people just don't really get the nuance of the entire storyline. Like, you shouldn't focus on the fact that he's being treated like crap. You should focus on the actual storyline itself, on how the storyline is being built, which, again, I kind of didn't like it because they focused too much on the actual handicap matches, which might I bring up, Kofi Kingston has won a 5-on-1 handicap gauntlet match. Now, I've heard people say that it was because it was a gauntlet match, but to be honest with you, I don't think it really matters because 5-on-1, I think, would still be as impossible to win as a 3-on-1 regular handicap match. It just simply does not matter. I feel like people just get too political during that whole storyline because the actual politics of the whole racism thing really took me out of the storyline. Not as much as the actual storyline itself, but it was still kind of like, can we leave that part of it alone? Because I really don't care if it was black, white, gay, bi, straight, male, female. That's not the entire point of the storyline. I don't think any character or storyline should be focused on the race, gender, sexual orientation of a character or a storyline. It should be mainly focused on the actual character part of it. Because if you're gonna make a character just based on their sexual orientation, gender, or political party or whatever, then it's officially going to make a bad storyline. Because how many people would actually care about that? And if you say that you do, then you obviously aren't really interested in wrestling. If you want to be interested in politics, go watch any political video on YouTube and argue there. Because wrestling should not really involve politics. I know there's still backstage politics, but whatever happens out of the ring should not really be involved in the ring unless it can be used for a good storyline. Like how with CM Punk's storyline, although I know it was not really, his contract really wasn't going to expire, but it still would have made for a good storyline anyway. I thought that storyline was actually pretty good, but there are definitely some parts I wish they would have just changed or just taken out in general, but it was still a good storyline. I kind of liked it up to the point where I still kind of liked it even though that Nash and Rock really shouldn't have been involved in it. It still was a good storyline. But when you have like actual politics, like again, race, gender, sexual orientation, it's not going to make for a good storyline. It's just going to make it seem like there's a political agenda behind it. Like you know how there's so many strong female characters going on about in the world of film and TV shows? That's what it kind of feels like. It feels like you're going to have this political agenda pushed behind it because of like your obvious agenda being shoved down our throats. That's one of the reasons why people didn't really like Ghostbusters 2016 and different movies and stuff. It's because of the obvious political agenda behind it. And before you call me racist or sexist for not liking Kofi's storyline, I want to point out the different storylines I really just didn't like that also had white people in it, like the NWO storyline and the invasion storyline and Brock and Roman Reigns and even the Becky Lynch and Charlotte and the Ronda Rousey storyline was just simply awful. Again, I don't care if you're white, black, male, female, gay, or straight. If that's going to be the entire selling point of your storyline or movie or whatever, then you're going to make an objectively bad storyline or movie. I know I really shouldn't have to talk about how I don't really care about that, but if I don't make myself as clear as possible, then people are just going to nitpick at everything and try to make an argument about different strawmans. Like I said before, I really don't get how there are still people who like WWE anymore. There's still, again, like a few people in WWE I kind of like, but to be honest with you, they're so boring and uninteresting that it really just changes my mind. Like, and as to how you can make a good character, just make a decent gimmick, and don't make him win all the time or don't make him lose all the time. Just have like 50-50 booking. I feel like that's how Austin was such a good character, is that he didn't win all the time. And the corporation, the way that they executed that entire storyline it's actually pretty good. It's not perfection, mind you, because nothing is perfect, but it was still good in a way that many people would consider that one of the best storylines of all time, if not simply the best. But again, like with most storylines today, if not every storyline, it's just objectively inferior in comparison. Like again, I would like to like some of the wrestlers and stuff, but they're just so boring and uninteresting that I just really don't care about it anymore. Like with Rusev Day, it was kind of interesting considering people were behind it and stuff. And I would actually like to see why people like it, but before I could even see why people liked it so much, they just broke it up anyway. I apologize for the awkward pause, but I'm just simply wondering how there are still people who watch it. I've deleted the WWE Network subscription since Survivor Series, and ever since then, I've never regretted it ever. I must truly wonder when Vince is going to retire and give the company to Triple H, considering that, again, many people say that NXT is objectively better than the main roster. So I must truly wonder when Triple H is going to take over and have good booking for Raw and SmackDown. Considering that AEW is just right around the corner, and to be honest with you, I'd rather watch Double or Nothing than any crappy storyline and pay-per-view and show that WWE has to offer. Yes, I'd rather watch Double or Nothing even rather than NXT. Yes, I'd rather watch that than the Attitude Era, because I'd rather spend my money on a company who might get my hopes up and even make good content, rather than a company who just takes my money and doesn't give me anything good or prosperous in return. This was Boss Gaming 101. Tell you, have a nice day.